Hello everyone, I'm Sameer, founder of cal.com, a place where people who like to cook make a cooking profile to show their cooking skills. Today, we will be talking about the history of food. Now, this video may be controversial, but I encourage you to do your own research, and if you think that I have made a mistake somewhere, please feel free to write in the comments below. So the title of the video is History of Food. Now the first question that came to my mind is, what is history and where do I start from? Now you may have heard the word prehistoric. What on earth is that? Let me explain. History is anything that has written records, and prehistoric is something that we derive from archaeological finds. In this video, let's start from the very beginning. We know that man evolved from apes. Now this is a very important fact to remember about prehistoric human food habits. Now imagine a gorilla. They say humans and gorillas evolved from the same ancestors about 10 million years ago. Now it is important to remember that all the apes are vegetarian who very rarely eat meat. It is a delicacy and apes are not that good at hunting. Now if you remember this fact, it will help you understand how the foods evolved. Around 7 million years ago, humans evolved from Australopithecus. Astrologists have found a 3.5 million year old fossil of Australopithecus. They called her Little Feet. Australopithecines were a lot like chimpanzees and they ate like them too. Their diet consisted of fibrous fares of seeds, grasses and fruit. They had a big jaw and big teeth like the chimps. They had to spend about 6 hours a day chewing. That is literally moving their jaws up and down for 6 hours to process this low energy food. Also, it's a lot of work to digest this hard vegetation and occasional raw meats. Today, we don't have to work so hard. If we compare ourselves to little feet, our digestive systems have been reduced greatly. Humans today have smaller mouth, smaller teeth and much reduced gut. This is because of the high quality diet that we eat. Now, if we see 2 million years ago, we will see that the Australopithecus evolved into Homo erectus. At this stage, we call them humans. Now, this was not possible unless they ate much more digestible food using fire. Yes, you heard me right. Humans evolved from chimpanzees because of cooking. Lightning strikes, raging forest fires, volcanic eruptions. These fiery forces of nature must have been terrifying for our ancestors like little feet. But this is also where they realized that tough tubers and the flesh of animals tasted way better when they were touched by fire. Soon, more people like little feet started making fire to cook their food. So cooking was invented even before humans became humans. Or in other words, humans became humans because of cooking. Basically, heat jiggles the molecules and breaks them apart. When you cook, you save yourself a lot of energy which would otherwise be used in digesting that raw food. Now, all this energy which was saved from not having to digest raw food, guess where all that energy went? It went straight to your head to grow the size of your brain. Humans have the largest brain in relation to the body weight compared to any of the primates. It is only 2.5% of your body weight and still uses 25% of the energy produced by our body. Brain is a very expensive organ to feed. Thanks to all the energy that we saved from digestion, we were able to give our brain a lot more energy. Cooking with fire sparked our evolution. We were able to transform from Australopithecus to Homo erectus. Without fire, we would still be chimpanzees roaming the forest. Okay, now let's fast forward to 12,000 years from now, the agricultural revolution. Before agriculture, man would wander from place to place in search of good vegetation or a good hunt. They also had the power of fire for cooking. I bet a lot of time was spent on cooking and experimenting. I bet our ancestors tried to eat everything and anything. If they could not eat it raw, they boiled it, they roasted it, they baked it, they ground it. I'm sure they tried so many different things with food. It is interesting to note that scientists have found records of bread dating almost 14,400 years ago from a cave in Jordan. So humans were making bread even before they learned how to farm. This bread was made using different kinds of grains. This created the need to grow similar kind of wild grass for similar kinds of grains. This would ensure that you would have good rice or a better tasting bread. Hence, agriculture was born. Agriculture changed humanity forever. Man stopped being a hunter-gatherer wandering from place to place and started to settle down, doing farming. We were growing wild grass in sufficient quantities to not have to move from place to place. Before, 5,000 acres of land was needed to support one member of the hunter-gatherer community. Now, the same 5,000 acres of land could support way more than 5,000 humans. Also, one man could do farming and support 500 other men. Thus, many professions were born. Man also learned to domesticate animals for meat and milk. This helped develop cities, towns and civilizations. Whether you're talking Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Indian, Chinese, Greek, Roman or the Inca civilizations, they were all based on brilliant farmers who were producing enough food for society to do other things. The food in the ancient civilization were very different from how they are today. Here is what 5 early civilizations ate. Let's start with Mesopotamian cuisine. This dates back to almost 5,500 to 6,000 years back. Mesopotamia is the earliest literate civilization on the globe. The first written history was found over here. They created the base 60 numeric system. This led to the 60-second minute, the 60-minute hour and the 360-degree circle. It was here that the year was divided into 12 parts based on astronomy. Some common foods in Mesopotamia include barley, which was used to make bread, soup and beer. Beer was popular back then. Vegetables such as onions, garlic, leeks, melons, eggplants, turnips, lettuce and cucumbers were common. Fruits such as apples, grapes, plums, figs, pears, dates, pomegranates, apricots and pistachios were common. Fish, pork and various wild game such as deer and gazelle. Cheese was made from milk of cattle, goats and sheep. Gruel or porridge, a thick stew of grains, legumes and vegetables was common. Whew. All the credit for these amazing discoveries go to the hunter-gatherers. Now let's talk about ancient Egypt, which started approximately 5,100 years ago. Depictions of banquets can be found both in the Old Kingdom and the New Kingdoms of Egypt. The staples for both the poor and the wealthy Egyptians was beer and bread. The Egyptians ate a lot of different kinds of fruits and vegetables and to a lesser extent meat, fish and game. Food would be prepared by stewing, baking, boiling, grilling, frying and roasting. Here is an interesting fact. Did you know that when Pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered, it was full of lot of gold and a lot of luxury items. Along with all this, it also had 48 boxes containing mummified meats, including choice cuts of beef, gazelle, wheel, ducks, geese, pigeons and other small birds. There were over 100 woven baskets that held the remains of dates, figs, pomegranates, melons, grapes, green onions, garlics and bread. There were also baskets of wheat and barley. This was made such that if King Tut came back from the afterlife, he could cook himself an awesome meal. The Egyptians prided themselves with good cooking, not just in banquets, but they carried it also in the afterlife. I have personally been to Egypt and tasted some awesome Egyptian cuisine. Feel free to check out the Egyptian group on khal.com for some awesome Egyptian recipes. Ancient Indian civilization around 5,500 years ago. India. This is the place where I was born and raised before I came to the US. I am very scared to dive into the culinary history of India as it is very controversial. The oldest history of India states that India was ruled by Dravidian kingdoms. These kingdoms were agricultural societies and used a lot of spices in their cooking. It is believed that meat was very rarely consumed in these societies. Around 3000 BCE or approximately 5,000 years ago, a lot of Aryans started migrating into India from Europe. The Aryans started the Hindu religion in India. These Aryans were hunter-gatherers and ate a lot more meat than the original inhabitants, the Dravidians. Hinduism is considered the oldest religion that is still existing today. Most of the ceremonies back in the day were accompanied by animal sacrifices. Even the Indian gods who roamed the earth ate meat as well. Lord Rama is supposed to have loved to eat deer meat. There are several mentions of him hunting deer and wearing deer skin. His beloved wife, goddess Sita, was kidnapped while he was on a pursuit of a deer. By the way, me and God Ram share the same birthday according to Hindu calendar. So meat eating was very common in the Hindu society back in the days. Vegetarianism in Hinduism came from South India around 500 BC or later. The Dravidian societies were mainly farmers and rarely ate meat. They started the vegetarian revolution from the south. The Buddhists were the first to adopt vegetarianism and spread it even more vigorously. But it is surprising to note that Buddha himself was a non-vegetarian. The Digha Nikaya states that Buddha's last meal was given to him by a blacksmith named Kunda. The meal consisted of a preparation called Sukra Madhava, which can be translated as pig's delight. If anyone knows how to make the Sukra Madhava, please add it to khal.com. Please make sure it's an authentic recipe. I tried searching for it everywhere, but I could not find the recipe. Pigs were very commonly eaten back in the days in India. It is only after the advent of the Muslims that eating a pig was considered a stigma. However, the culinary revolution brought by the Muslims is mind-blowing. Most of the non-vegetarian dishes that are eaten in India today are thanks to the Muslim influence. Ancient Europe, around 3000 BCE or approximately 5000 years ago. The Minoans, the Greeks and the Romans were a great part of ancient European history. Bread dipped in wine was among the favorite of ancient Europeans. They loved olives and grapes and a lot of different fruits and vegetables. Pork, sheep, goat and fish were common meats eaten during this period. There was a very famous soup called black soup. This was very famous back in the days. Cows were not so common back in the days in Greece, so most of the dairy came from goats and sheep. Ancient China, around 4000 years ago. The ancient Chinese were surprisingly creative in their cooking. Did you know that noodles were made in China almost 4000 years ago? They also invented tea, ice cream and pasta. I know you guys think pasta is an Italian dish, but it was invented in China. Miso and sushi were also invented in China and later got popular in Japan. The oldest record of an alcoholic beverage was found in China, dating almost 9000 years ago at an archaeological site. The Chinese did become vegetarian for a brief period in history when Emperor Wenzong of Tang banned the slaughter of cattle on account of Buddhism. Chinese food is enjoyed all over the world with its local twist. The food in the ancient world was incredibly different from how it is today. Italian food did not have tomatoes and Indian food did not have chilies. I cannot imagine an Italian dish without tomatoes or an Indian dish without chilies, but I'm sure they were delicious. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. If you know an ancient recipe, feel free to add it to khal.com with ancient in the title. Make sure to make the recipe as authentic as possible, as in use the ingredients that were available in that place at that time and try to avoid using ingredients that were not available in that place at that time. Thanks for watching and I hope you cook something amazing today. Take care.